Welcome to Lock It Down Sports on E5280 Sports. As we've got a lot to get into today, as I'm Locke, and you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. Now, as I said, we've got a lot to get into, and we're going to get into the Falcons quarterback situation. We're going to get into Major League Baseball talking about changing a rule, another NIL effect that to me is really not a surprise, and the continued changes in college football. And that's right. That's one of the things I want to get into right now, of the potential look of a 14-team playoff. We know I talked about it last week, a 12-team playoff is coming. Well, there's already been reports and rumors circling around that there is a potential 14-team playoff that could start as soon as 2026. And here's some of the layout for what this might look like. The SEC and the Big Ten would get 3 automatic bids. The Big 12 and the ACC, 2 automatic bids. A group of 5 team would get a guaranteed bid, and then 3 at-large bids to the highest ranked schools. And when you look at this arrangement and setup, it's kind of interesting, but to me, also very head-scratching in a way as well. And the reason I say that is this. First off, why would the SEC and Big Ten push this and agree to this? They would pretty much always have 3 teams in anyway. Why would they potentially want to limit their conference? It makes me scratch my head as I'm doing it right now. So I went back to 2021. I didn't just take last year's results as a number. I went back to 2021. The SEC and the Big Ten combined would have 7 of the 14 schools in. And yes, I counted the Texas, the Oklahoma, the Washington, the Oregon, the Southern Cal, because that's the new SEC and the Big Ten, those schools. So I include that in the number count. So 7 SEC Big Ten schools total, 3 SEC schools, 4 Big Ten schools in 2021. 2022, 7 SEC and Big Ten schools, 3 SEC schools, 5 Big Ten schools. Last year, 12 SEC and Big Ten schools of the 14. 7 SEC schools, 5 Big Ten schools. That just shows you the dominance of the leagues where they're at. Now, on the other spectrum, why would the ACC and Big 12 agree to this? To me, it would be a little bit more telling, but it's also a little bit more complicated in a give and take realm as it is. So to me, it's like if they agree to this, obviously they're guaranteeing themselves getting 2 schools in, which for them obviously is great, especially when, say, only 1 team actually deserves it. Say it's an Oklahoma State or a Utah and the Big 12, and that might be it. That might be the only school that won their conference that doesn't have 3 or 4 losses, right? But there would be another Big 12 school getting in. Same thing in the ACC. Yeah, most years looks like it's probably going to come down to Florida State, who's kind of gotten back to typical Florida State. And then you've got Clemson, of course, who's stumbled a little bit, but is still the carrying the banner basically for the ACC, those two schools. But some years in the past, only one of those schools has deserved to get in. And it's so it essentially guarantee Florida State and Clemson to get in. Maybe there's a down year and a North Carolina or Louisville jump up, and that's the other school, even though they might have 3 or 4 losses, but they're the second bid team. So that part's all great, right? Where I would say majority of the years, those two leagues don't deserve to send another school in, but they get it. So that part's the good part. But also, too, and another way, it would almost both those conferences, the ACC and the Big 12, would it be admitting that they are not equal and not as good as the Big 10 because they only get 2 guarantees instead of 3. So it's really the Power 4, obviously conferences now, but it's almost the sect of separation, the Power 2 in the SEC and Big 10, and then, also the ACC and Big 12. Part of the Power 4, but a tier below, and then you get the the G5 schools. So that's, on every realm, of course, the money, and that's the ultimate driver. That's ultimate driver for the 12-team playoff. For the 14-team playoff, that would be the ultimate driver too, of course, the money and the revenue coming in. But from a conference standpoint, I don't get it on any front really at all. But here we are, and that's what it's looking like. And it's also too, so a fallback, if say they do go to 14 teams and this doesn't match, that people don't agree on how to do it, the SEC and Big 10 are asking for them to be the top 2 seeds, whoever their conference champ is, as a fallback, if they ask for, after it's asked to be for automatic qualifiers. So they put some parameters to, hey, if it's a fallback as well, let's do this also. That's another option that they mentioned as well. So they're all trying to, SEC and Big 10, trying to cover their backside to make sure they get the most money possible is really what it's coming down to, obviously. Now, something that to me I think should be pretty obvious, or at least in consideration, when it comes to the Falcons quarterback situation. Now, I want them to draft one. Absolutely, we need one, because you can't sit there and live with Desmond Ridder for another year. You saw him play, and let's just say it wasn't good. For a nice term, it wasn't good. So I'm fine if they sign Kirk Cousins to a 2 or 3 year deal. I mean, he's 35. So he's got a few more years to him. I mean, like I said, give him 2, makes him 37, a 3, 38. I would put Russell Wilson in this category as well. 1, 2 year deal. I mean, there's a report today that he'd be a great deal and a bargain if he signed for league minimum, because he's getting all that money from Denver. So he's getting all that money from Denver. He doesn't need that $20 million contract. He's already got that money coming in. Signed for league minimum as a starter. Heck, he could be a backup, but I'm fine with either one of those. I would probably lean more towards Kirk Cousins based on the offensive fit for the Falcons and what reports are saying they want to run. But to me, not at all should that prevent them from drafting a quarterback in the first or second round. I mean, I'm assuming Williams, Mayo, and Daniels are probably going to be gone by the Falcons by the time the Falcons have their first pick. J.J. McCarthy, not the biggest fan of what I've seen from him. Probably be there at 8. Maybe you go get him. Maybe. But then say those top 3 quarterbacks are gone. And you have Falcons got needs, whether it's you go get your receiver, or maybe receivers that you like, or an end, defensive end. You can always use pass rush or someone on the offensive line. Maybe they're there at 8 that you really like. Go get them because you've already got Kirk Cousins. Then in the second round, go get Penix or Bo Nix. Maybe one of those two are your guys. I mean, you have to get your guy. You have to get your quarterback of the future. Now, people say, well, golly, Michael Penix is a 6-year guy. He's old. He's older than some of the quarterbacks that are already in the league that have played 2-3 years. Yeah, that's true. But age to me doesn't really concern me at this point. Penix is 23. And why is that concerning to you if he can go out and play? Because quarterbacks now can play, let's just say 15 years. If he plays 15 years for your franchise, something went well. Something worked out where you get your next franchise quarterback. That would make him 38 if everything worked out. I mean, heck, if he played 10 years, he's 33. 12, he's 35. You're fine with that. Have a good decade and some change of a good quarterback play? Absolutely. No doubt about it. Same thing with Bo Nix. Same concept applies. He's 20, except for he's 24. So add a year to all that. So he's 39 if things work out in 15 years. 10 years, obviously 34. 35, 36, 11, 12 years. So things can work out even if they're older. That's okay. I don't have any issue with that. Sometimes make a big deal. Oh, I don't know if you can build a franchise. I don't know if he can be a long-term. Yeah, he can be. Even if it's a 10-year span, conservatively 10-year span, he's still playing well. Let's roll. No problems, no issues. They're both physically fit, very well-matured quarterbacks coming in. They've seen a lot of football. Granted, not at the NFL level, obviously, but they've seen a lot of football. And that's important, and that matters to me. Now, something else that I think would matter, and I would like to, I don't know. I'm torn. So Major League Baseball, this article came out, is flirting with the idea of only allowing 12 pitchers on the roster now instead of 13, potentially starting in 2025. Now, the goal of their plan would be to increase the usage of starting pitchers and starting pitchers going deeper in games, which would be great. I would absolutely love to see that. Starters going deeper in games. And it's just more enjoyable for me that end to develop and build your pitchers like that. Now, some interesting numbers. So starters averaged 15.4 outs per start in 2023. So right around 5 innings, maybe 5 1/3. 2022, 15.6 outs per start in 2023. So that's once again about 5, maybe 5 1/3. Let's jump to 2015. 17.4 outs per start. So over 2 more outs per start. So basically about 6 innings, 5 2/3, 6 innings. Way back in 2000, 17.8 outs per start. So once again, that's 6 1/3, 6 2/3, however you kind of want to, slice it. Outs per start and innings pitched. That's a full inning and a third out of your starters. And how much of more relief that is on your bullpen. That puts less strain on your bullpen. It allows guys in the bullpen to have more nights off. You're not running your same guys out there a lot. They don't do it as much now, but it gives them more time. It's okay. I get a breather. I've got 4 guys that are my high leverage guys. I only need 2 or 3 of them on Monday. Then on Tuesday, if I need them again, one of those guys might have a day off. Like, how much more fresh would your bullpen guys be? Now, sadly, I don't see this happening. I would love for stars to go deeper in games. I don't see this happening. And here's why. They're not being developed at minor league level. They're going 5 1/3, 100 pitches in the minors, and they're not completely stretching themselves out in the minors. They're finishing that development at the big league level. You got to win games at the big league level. Everybody knows that. The minor league level is development and being ready to go for the big leagues. That's what it used to be. Now it's guys got 99 to 100 out of the rotation, 95 plus minimum, and they've got 2 solid pitches. Maybe that third they're working on, that fourth is so-so. So they've got 2.5 pitches, and they're developing that third one at the big league level, which therefore means they're not going to be able to go as deep in games. And it's that continued churn. So because of that, I believe this would cause more bullpen churn than there already is if it's going – it would go to 12 pitches instead of 13. Because there would be more up and down guys from the majors to the minors to have that fresh arm when you get blown out 13-3. There would be more guys that can't go. They don't want to push their guys, so they want them to be fresh down the stretch, especially if they're a playoff team. Now, that's the other thing I'm referring to when it comes to playoff teams. For example, like the Braves, they're deep. They're a deep team, but when it comes to their roster construction, they almost rather add another bullpen arm than a bench player, because the Braves team plays 162 games. Every one of their starters, obviously, unless they get hurt, they don't platoon a lot because their starters play 162. Therefore, that means they've got a very minimum need for their bench. Outside of their catcher, they rotate often, which that's very much the trend now in Major League Baseball, especially when you get a good one and a solid one, Travis d'Arnaud, as your backup. Outside of them, the Braves bench players might get 100, 150 at bats, maybe. I mean, Kevin Pillar last year was the most used bench player for the Braves because he was platooning with Rosario. Outside of that, shoot, Charlie Culberson went a month on the big league roster, maybe a month and a half on the big league roster, and he collected one at bat. That's your 25th, 26th guy on the roster in Atlanta. I guarantee you they'd much rather have another bullpen arm than Charlie Culberson sitting on the bench for a month. Just the way the Braves construct their roster and the way they have it set up. So it's sadly, I don't think this is going to change, but it would be great to see it happen. Now, something that I was not very surprised about this at all is this NIL effect. I've talked last week about some of the NIL effects, but this is not something that's surprising at all to me. And that is only 54 underclassmen entered the NFL draft. Only 54. Comparative between 2016 and 2022, an average of 115 players left early. Obviously, that number's just cut in half this year. Why, you ask? Of course, it's because the NIL. And obviously, I think that covers all positions, even like your running backs, your receivers, but especially to me, I think the quarterback position. I think in past years, you would have seen a Carson Beck, a Jackson Dart, or even a Quinn Ewers leave early, or at least 2 out of 3 leave, even in this deep quarterback class. I mean, with Mayo, with Williams, with Daniels, guys like that. I mean, even with them, you would see some of these, at least 2 of these 3 quarterbacks enter the draft. I think if it wasn't for NIL, and I get it. I mean, why not stay in college and say, like, those guys, you're probably going to make well over $1 million. Plus, Carson Beck just signed a car deal or private jet deal like Dart just did, which is pretty cool. I mean, you just signed a private jet deal. It's like, all right, good for you. Yeah, you're going to be taxed on it, but, first of its kind. But, hey, that's pretty cool. Signed a private jet deal. All right. I got it. So people like that, let's just say because of how deep that quarterback class is, might be 4th, 5th, 6th round draft picks, as they're really good, or good college players. Of course, college and pro translation a little bit different, but they've had good years. Why not rack up another year of money in the NFL? I mean, in college for NIL. That same thing goes for other guys. Your linemen, your receivers, your running backs. A lot of times it's really your skilled guys come out early most of the time, more times than not, are coming back to college for NIL. And here's why I think a few reasons. A, they can improve their draft stock from this year to next. So say they're a 4th, 5th, or 6th, 7th round pick. Next year, they might be a 3rd, 4th, 5th instead of a 4th, 5th, 6th, a round or 2 higher than they would have been this year. Another year in their weight room, another year getting bigger, another year understanding the game of football and their techniques. I think another thing too is they know what they're getting. They know what they're getting when they're coming back. They're guaranteed 200, 300, 400,000 plus from the NIL. And maybe they're a 4th through 7th round draft pick anyway, this year or next year. So why not come back, pick up that additional year of NIL, get a degree, maybe you graduate, hopefully so, as a 4th, 5th, 6th year guy, maybe you graduate, maybe you can get your grad degree for those grad transfers. Maybe. Some will, obviously some won't, but that's another, I guess, feather in the cap, another incentive. Or I guess that's not really an incentive, because they're incentives to play football and go to the NFL. But that's just like another thing to potentially prepare them for their future. If they want a college degree, they don't have to go back. But they're getting that additional 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 to take care of themselves and take care of their families for some of these kids. Now, I still think that's going to be, becomes more the norm. Yeah, there's going to be injury risk for guys staying and getting hurt in college. But if you ask me, I think it's worth it. I mean, there's just as much injury in the there's in the NFL. Yeah, if you're going to be a 4th through 7th round pick anyway, you might go undrafted, or you might be a 6th, 7th round pick as opposed to a 4th or 5th round pick. But you're getting that guaranteed extra money in college, and then you can rehab and improve your stock going into the draft. And I believe this is going to be the norm going forward, as well as your sure bet 1st and 2nd round picks, underclassmen coming out early. I think that's going to be the norm. And to me, it's not really that much of a surprise. Now, something I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but college football is morphing more and more into the NFL. And to me, that all started last year with not stopping the clock on first downs outside of 2 minutes. So that obviously started last year. Just kind of curious what would happen with the offenses, if it would slow some down, if it would affect some, things of that nature. So you saw that. Then you got all the changes this upcoming year. Of course, expanding the playoffs. I mentioned the problems I think of that. And then also this year, it's been proposed. I'm sure it'll be basically confirmed at this point, but helmet communication, tablets on the sideline / halftime, and then 2-minute warning. And obviously all of that has been in the NFL for I don't know how long. I mean, the tablets and the helmet communication are the quote unquote newest ads, and they've been in the NFL, 20 years maybe now at this point? 15 at least. I don't remember when that started. But that's creeped into college. And you know what? I'm okay with these improve and changes for the offense and the defense. It's going to improve their efficiency. For the spread, fast-paced offenses, I believe it's greatly going to improve them, because it's okay, the coach or the offensive coordinator talking, we're running XYZ play. That's it. So as opposed to the 5 guys giving hand signals, and then you've got the 2 guys holding the big cards up with SpongeBob SquarePants as a play, and your college logo as a play, and your head coach as a play, and your assistant coach as a play, and Nike as a play, and Adidas as a play, or Under Armour, whatever your sponsor is. Those are all different plays. You got all these people hand signs. You got all these people blocking signs with the sheets, and so they hold it around like this so they can't see. That's going to improve the efficiency to me for the offense. Less miscommunication on the offensive and defensive side. I think it'll also help them transition to the NFL. I think it could, and I think it will help guys be more up to speed with the NFL, the style, that first initial coach talking to you inside of the helmet. Get more guys used to it. But to me, there's something special about the games being different. I like it because it's different and it makes it what's special, unique, and enjoyable. It's the same game. One's played at a higher level because they're the best in the world. But the college game that's what makes it special, because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different brand. Yeah, of course it's a little bit different brand still because of the offenses, and it's a different style offense, but also there's a few different rules. I don't think the changes are going to ruin the game at all, but it's just going to be more the same football. More the exact same football. Stop at the 2-minute warning, helmet communication, tablets on the sideline, all of that. Of course, coaches are for it, absolutely, because it's easier to communicate with them. But it's it's more the same football as the viewer and as the fan. So I don't think it will change college football. I mean, I guess it will, but it just hurts a little inside the way college football is turning into the NFL more and more every single day. Once again, I'm Locke Hoover. You can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. I'll talk to you next week right here on E52 80 Sport. Talk to you next week.